Yeah. Never played Thomas Was Alone before. I know basically nothing about it. So I'm really excited to check it out. It sounds really cool. Okay, sounds good. I'll do my best. It can be tough on Twitch, but if I miss something important, let me know. It was a massive flop. The coders started adding name strings to the AIs as a joke. Thomas wasn't special, it was just an AI in the right place at the right time.
Thomas was alone. Wow, a weird first thought to have.
Oh, interesting. Stage moves. Got kind
Thomas
of a
decided to start listing his observations for posterity.
modern Atari
One,
take, like
the whole
P6.
alone thing. 2, portals. They led somewhere. He'd yet to work out where. 3, falling. Thomas was absolutely fantastic at falling. He was almost as good at falling as he was at observing.
Nice.
Okay, interesting. Thomas couldn't fall past this block. Think, damn it, think. What if there was some kind of inverted fall? Some way to... what's the word? Jump. It worked! Thomas had solved the great inverted fall mystery.
An achievement for that.
A big jump. But Thomas noted there was no real danger in missing it. The world didn't want him to fail here. It was pushing him, but gently.
That's cool. See if there are failure modes later on, though.
This all seemed a little dangerous. The world was not to be trusted. It was unstable, and it seemed to Thomas that it could let him down at
Any moment. Sure. Oh, the achievement I just got was called
This all
gamification.
seemed a little dangerous.
So I went for
The world was not to be
an
trusted.
item when it was clearly death.
Unstable, and it seemed to Thomas that it could let him down at any moment.
Yeah. I do like the music in this so far.
Thomas wondered whether the portals were actually taking him anywhere. He felt like he was making progress, but there wasn't really any way to know. He seemed to be moving predominantly up and to the right, which might, or might not, be important. It might have been paranoia again, but Thomas could have sworn the world was becoming more complicated. It always seemed to be one step ahead of his skills.
Commentary on the level design.
It had been designed just for him. He wondered why. Was the world testing him? No, too obvious.
Pass to respawn points to
Something
save
about
progress.
boiling, toxic, glowing water intimidated Thomas.
That's a good
Liked
line.
it. He certainly didn't want to swim in it. He made another mental note. 4. Water. Not good. To be avoided.
Good to make that as clear as possible. This one looks pretty
The
tricky.
loneliness was getting to Thomas. No amount of observation or obsessive note-taking could combat that.
I like the lighting effect. It's like very rudimentary, but it makes it stand out from being an Atari game. As does the, smooth camera movement and 60 frame per second gameplay.
Thomas had a new theory. The world was training him. He could feel himself getting smarter. There was the mental list to consider. Over the minutes and seconds since his spontaneous generation, he'd become a pretty skilled jumper.
Nice.
He was evolving. He just wished he had someone to share it with.
This is an unusual game to play on Twitch with the theme they're kind of going at here, isn't it? I like it though. You guys see where they're going. Be there or be... That's the name of the achievement I just got. Submitted hundreds of bug reports, told the idiot this would happen. Overlapping scripts, more than one AI was bound to be spawned into an environment at some point. Turns out I missed the point. That little error changed everything.
Chris took an immediate and deep dislike to the skinny red rectangle. Who the hell did this Thomas think he was?
Okay, I think I get it. Sure. Oh, okay. Awesome. Awesome. He's fatter, too. I like it. Okay, I see the puzzle design space of having the two
Chris had been
characters
doing
now.
Fine. He wasn't the highest jumper, but he'd held his own. He'd even been graceful at times.
Okay.
Not technically graceful, it's probably the wrong word, but you know, fine. There was that skinny little runt leaping about like he owned the place.
Nice. Ow. Dick. Nice. Fun. Yeah. No, this game's pretty cool so far. I like it. There's no falling damage. Seems correct. I wonder how many characters there eventually are in the game. Yeah, this one's a bit trickier.
Okay, this was more like it. A glowy white
Switch.
thing. Only Chris could get to it, which of course made it all the more enticing. What would it do? What new opportunity might this switch open up to him?
Right on, right on. This reminds me of Lost Vikings. Have you ever played it before? This really cool Blizzard game from way back in the day.
Chris. Another chance for
Kind of a
Thomas to
similar
jump
idea.
slightly higher than Chris. How fortunate. Seriously, this made the whole switch pressing thing entirely worthwhile.
That's actually the closest comparison I can think of. Let's see if we actually get a third character that has different abilities as well.
Because on the surface, it did not seem good. Chris was pretty scared. Little Red seemed fine, happy to be on his merry little adventure.
Yeah, it was for Genesis. I think it was for a couple
Chris couldn't shake the
systems.
feeling that things had taken a significant turn for the worse since Thomas had joined them. Sure, he'd been able to piggyback his way to ever so slightly higher platforms, but where had that got him? Well, to ever so slightly higher platforms, which was sort of his point.
Yeah, the whole idea with Lost Vikings is you had these three characters, the eponymous Lost Vikings, who had different abilities, and you had to solve levels by switching between them. And after you switched, the other Vikings just kind of stood in place. You could leave them with a basic command. Yeah, the humor in this is pretty funny. Yeah, Chubby Chris is pretty cool.
Chris stared at Thomas with pure hatred. He seemed so very happy at their situation. Friends together, a brave fellowship of quadrilaterals on a quest for greatness.
It's a pretty good line.
That would be fine. But it was all the obvious observation that Thomas was doing which grated. Every time they saw something vaguely new, Chris would hear a satisfied little from the vaulting idiot. He hoped
The
the
vaulting
next
idiot.
puzzle would split them up, if only for a few levels.
It's very tricky because these kind of indie games, like I really like Stanley Parable. I think it's good, but I think it's a little long-winded at times. Like the funny dialogue goes on about 2 or 3 pages of script longer than it needs to sometimes. So far, I think this is pretty reserved and funny. Yeah, I like it, Yukibo. This is fun so far, though. I really like it. Oh, what's the difference, Propagable? I didn't know there was one. Oh, shit!
He knew that this was his chance. A moment to shine. This was game day.
Go, John.
This would not do. John needed room to show off his exceptional skills. As it was, he was trapped on the wrong side of these little dot things. Where'd they come from, anyway?
Yeah, they like spent a little bit too much time on it. There were some of them that were better than others. But it was more like if you had made this joke with like 3 fewer paragraphs, I'd like it better.
It smelled of awesome.
So he jumped really high and
he's
he's
muscles, to put his training to use, time to show those little dots how it was done.
He's a little more floaty. So he's Luigi. Thomas is Mario.
John decided to press
Chris is
let the little dots catch up.
Toad.
John cared for his new allies.
Aw.
You could tell from the sympathetic expression he practiced in the mirror all these years.
Right. I like the different like characteristic sound effects that they have too. Guessing that Chris can't jump high enough to get on top of John directly. He has to go via Thomas as a medium. I'm gonna do some shenanigans here in a sec. You can sometimes. It's kind of sort of a shortcut. Jump. Perfect. You can kind of. I don't think you can jump when you have them stacked, Kami. So like I can do this, but I can't jump. So I can probably move them down here like this. So that's fine, but they can't jump anymore when they're on top of us like that, which makes sense.
John was happy to keep helping. He felt it was important to his image that he was seen to help the little guys.
Got it. Cool. Make a little platform for Chris to cross. Go, Chris. You should be able to just make that, no problem. Oh, interesting. You get a better sense for Thomas's jump range compared to John. This would be fun to speedrun when you gotta like very quickly switch between them in the most efficient possible way. Yeah, I was saying the same thing, Kami. This is very much like Lost Vikings.
The red one, Thomas, had a charming way of applauding every time John jumped.
The main difference is their jump ability. Whereas Lost Vikings has, like, you know, Olaf has a shield that he can hover with. Eric can run really fast. But I think that bringing it down to basics is probably a good idea for the kind of story they're going for with this one. It feels very much like Eric, Balrog, and Olaf. Okay, I'm gonna get him up there first. It's tricky. Let's see, there we go.
The angry orange one was less immediately likable, but his unremitting cynicism and tutting amused John.
Alright, we gotta get John up here. That might be good enough for him to make that. Yeah, good enough. Just barely. Okay. I guess we gotta have John down here. Hold on. Slightly higher? High enough. Perfect. If you've never played Lost Vikings before, I really recommend it. If you like this kind of gameplay, it's basically the same idea. Really cool. I think that they might be in Heroes of the Storm, right?
This was interesting. A floating target. This would require coordination, balance, and timing.
Interesting. That's
John was
very
sure
different.
The dots would be lost, but he was happy to guide them to triumph.
Did the developer indicate that they were trying to do like a modern or different take on Lost Vikings? Was it mentioned at all? Just curious if this was in a
They were there
made in a vacuum
to
or not.
extend John's reach to make his performance even more impressive. John liked the thought. He decided to keep them.
Nice. John is basically Andrea, and she's the tall one, so it makes sense. Oh, that's pretty cool, Kami. The initial group possessed simple variations in size and strength. More complex configurations were inevitable. As the era spread, these variations became increasingly extreme.
So, this was how Claire would die. She knew it would happen eventually. She was
Cool, so it's going to get more
rubbish at
complicated than
jumping.
just the jumping
She moved
physics.
slowly. She felt a little like her continued existence was breaking some kind of natural order. The crumbling pillar was a dramatic death, she supposed. Wait, what? Claire couldn't shake the feeling that she was not, in fact, dead. It was at that moment that Claire realized she had superpowers.
Nice. That's really cool. Alright, so now we're going to start playing around with other mechanics.
She'd need a cape. There was no getting around that. You couldn't be a superhero without a cape. Claire didn't want confusion.
Does this game have a level editor? Does anybody
So a
know?
cape, that made matters clear. You knew what you were dealing with. Claire was all about communication. And, you know, floating in water, which was her superpower.
It's cute. This would be fun to play around with the level editor. There's all kinds of cool levels you could do without having to, like,
All right.
work too hard on it.
For I am Claire, and I will save you. Claire needed to come up with a superhero name as soon as possible. Claire was rubbish.
She can probably get out on the other side, right? No level editor yet? That's too bad. Lots of cool design space with this. I'm trying to think what other powers they're going to introduce later.
Of course, the perfect moment for superheroes to arrive.
I did a puzzle the hard way, you said? I see, making the water rise. It's a little boat.
As the water began to rise, Claire vowed to save this little rectangle in as many restarts as it took.
Nice. I like the kind of...
Claire wondered if Thomas would make a good sidekick. Or was she more the lone Avenger type? She'd like that. The sole hero in a world of rectangles and conveniently placed pools of toxic water.
I like that they've got this kind of funny in-level storyline and they're implying this more interesting thing about AI becoming self-aware in between sections of levels or worlds. I can see the design getting pretty tricky pretty quickly. Probably need to do the same thing and jump up by himself because he's John.
Told Claire that staircases were a bit of a fixture here. I wondered why the world made it so difficult.
Jump. Jump, jump. Jump, jump. Jump, jump. Oh, right, I can just put him on top of Claire so they have to jump through them. I suppose that makes sense. Okay, I was about to ask what happens if we get crushed. Looks like nothing severe. Come on, Claire, let's go. Whoa, that was almost really bad. Yeah, we're gonna have to get John out the way.
Probably needed a nemesis, a villain who would show their true colours at the worst possible moment, hurting all she held dear.
Probably a switch we have to hit.
Was the most obvious choice. He seemed stroppy enough, and his jump was so pathetic that it conveniently avoided Claire's insecurities. Yes, Chris, diabolical Chris, the fiendish Christopher.
Shit. Alright, this one's trickier. I think we can figure it out, though. There we go. He gets kind of stuck on the ceiling, though, so we have to be careful. It's cool, like, almost like a physics puzzle. Jump. Right. Perfect. Jump. Jump. Cross. Are you climb these by himself? He can. Perfect. Alright, next level. I like Claire.
Hey,
Cool addition.
where had Chris gone? Was he off somewhere? Plotting Claire's downfall? If Claire was honest, and she had to be because she was a superhero, this was a troubling turn of events. Still, there were reasonably sized bodies of water to cross.
Whee! Quadrilateral friends. MVP. A really cool idea to give her that as a power. Let's see. We're gonna need her further, but we'll find out in a sec here. She's a living boat lady. Would she fit in a rowboat with Phyllis?
Moving platforms over water, eh? Claire's newly heightened senses told her that there were multiple paths across with various possible configurations of the little posse.
Yeah, I guess you get pushed if you have the two of them together. Okay, good to know. So John can, or any of them can touch water partially, but if they're completely submerged, they die. But just touching it isn't instant death. Guessing the little platforms would knock them off of her, though.
They were doing really well. Claire hoped she could get them all across. John was fully aware he could do this alone. Thomas hoped he'd never have to.
Aww. Thomas. Yeah, don't think Thomas could make it. Spikes, that's new. Do they work the way I expect them to? Yes, perfect. So I'm sure we're gonna get a character that's immune to spikes.
Which was odd, because she wasn't meant to be alone. She needed to be where there were rectangles to save. Being the only superhero in a given space kind of defeats the object. Spikes? That was new. Claire avoided them. She decided they were most likely her kryptonite.
Not exactly a
Rubbish red
tesseract.
kryptonite either, the proper radioactive green stuff.
Right. Cool. Alright. Same level, but with Thomas this time, I'm guessing. Thomas is not immune to spikes. Got it.
Wow. Deja vu. The world was repeating. And this time Thomas was here. Claire felt something had gone wrong. There was a disturbance in the force.
Can he not jump on?
Something had altered the matrix. The world was reacting to their progress. It was amassing its forces.
Oh, there's some weird
So
physics with the
against
platform and jumping. Shit. It's okay.
Claire finally had a nemesis.
Yeah, I do like their checkpoint placement in this game. Very much like, this is the Mario Maker argument I always make about how you should place your checkpoints, right? Pretty much after you do something interesting, they give you a checkpoint so you don't have to retread anything. Gotta figure out what the jump physics are when you're climbing one of these. They're different than I expected them to be. Like it affects your jumping momentum. There we go. Yeah, that's fine. No long-term death penalties, so we can do that. Jump. I'm rubber, you're glue. I built protections into the system. When overlaps occurred, the world generated a splitter to remove the unwanted additional. It's like a white blood cell. It investigates, captures, and removes from play. Ooh, orange. Oh wait, no. Pink. This is
Laura was pleased
Laura.
this one was behind a wall.
Oh, cool.
Maybe he'd never know what she could do. Maybe they could just have a conversation. Hang out. As long as he didn't find out what she could do. Which would never happen so long as they stayed separate.
Cool, so apparently her feature is she's got a different shape, but maybe she doesn't have something else too. They're just foreshadowing something like that.
Laura didn't have time to worry about the ominous pixel cloud. It had been following her for some time, and it had kept itself to itself until now.
Oh, awesome!
More important was the little orange thing, which was looking at her in a way that she kind of, well, liked.
Man, you can envision design space of like different characters they could create and the basic physics they've created with just a jump button and a switch character button.
Shyly introduced himself as Chris, bounced atop Laura. She began
That's
to
fun.
worry that he was just using her like all the others had. They'd all bounced too, and then they disappeared when her back was turned.
Alright, and the bouncing is only from above, sure.
Only
Don't be a
the
dick,
ominous
Chris.
pixel cloud ever remained, looking a little bigger and a little less hungry with every disappearing friend.
I think things will turn out
With
okay
every
for
bounce,
Laura.
Laura found herself less and less irritated by Chris. She started to miss him when he wasn't there. On another platform or
Cool.
something.
Jump! Nice. She's an assist character.
She'd wonder.
I like how they introduce you to her in a context where you don't know her ability and it's not relevant. Just get used to getting a new character. Jump. Cool. Ever so slightly higher. On the hop, I got an achievement.
Chris was in love. She was perfect. He had to tell her so.
What's
At
that
some point,
stuff?
he would definitely tell her. Probably best to wait for a moment the large, ominous pixel cloud wasn't about there.
Oh,
Yeah.
Pixel Cloud is literal now. Probably have, like, ridden... Oh, shit. Alright. There we go. So I don't know if he, like, is just on top of Laura, if he'll move all the way across or not. Should have thought about how short her range was. Yeah, laugh it up, Fuzzball. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna do the jumping thing. It's... Otherwise I'm gonna have to switch constantly, and it'll be actually a little bit harder. right? Got it. And you just go straight across. Pretty cool. Big fan. Yeah, makes sense. Cool. Oh, if I jump, they go higher? That's pretty cool. What a neat way to teach you about it, too.
Chris was massively disappointed to run into the gang again. He'd enjoyed the alone time with his new girlfriend.
Trying to see if they lose height over time. I think they do. Okay. There we go. It's higher and higher. Right on. I guess this is when we're supposed to send Chris.
To refer to Laura as his girlfriend?
Just wondering.
If I say it out loud, he told himself. He didn't want to scare her off.
Interesting. Alright, I probably want John. There we go. Go, 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 go. Like how they can use that light. I mean, it's neat in that it distinguishes the game a bit from a Atari title, but it also lets you infer some things about what's going on off screen when you switch characters. That's pretty clever, I would say. Oh yeah, we probably need to send Jonathan in first, don't we? He can't get through them otherwise. Yeah, that's better. Okay. Being so tall, John. Right, and there we go. Perfect.
The others
interesting.
seemed suspicious of Laura, and the eager-looking pixel cloud of death which seemed to be watching her. Sure, they'd use her inherent bounciness to reach slightly higher jump points, but they wouldn't strike up a conversation with her. Chris found them rude. Rude, and always there.
I do like that idea that Chris is kind of a dick, but he gets along really well with Laura. All these crazy quadrilateral relationships. Do we need her? Do we need anything to get her to progress here? Weed. Jump. Jumpy, jumpy, jump. Quadrilateral marriage. Alright. There's that black pixel cloud. Huh. What's up with the dotted lines? How is that different unless we get a really tiny character later?
Who's that cloud guy? Why is he following us? What's that rumbling hungry sound he keeps making? Chris, can we just leave Laura behind?
Ah, bitch, can't leave Laura behind. What do you think this shit is? Rude indeed. Alright, this one's kind of tricky. Let me see if Thomas can make it over by himself. But I think they're gonna need those two are gonna have to work together to make it up top. I think he can do it. Ooh, not quite. Not quite. Potentially require some shenanigans. No shape left behind, exactly. Maybe if I time that just right. It seems like a sentence that begins with maybe if I time that just right is probably overcomplicating the intended solution. I guess it's so that it can travel below Laura there. Oh, interesting. Sure. It doesn't keep moving her. Let me watch carefully the movement on that left platform. I think we want to have Laura jump to it next time. There we go. Okay. Now we have to find a way to get her over one more. We'll leave Chris where he is for the moment. Ah, she could transfer there. We'll wait. We should be able to do it. No big D. She doesn't need to work on anybody else. This is probably the most involved puzzle so far, at least the way that I'm choosing to solve it. Okay. Cool. Whoa. Thanks. That's exactly what we want. Now the problems end up being if Chris can't progress without Laura, so we'll try to get him to progress here, see what happens. Might be able to get him over to where she is. We can do this. Nice. And now Thomas, it's on you, buddy. You got this, right? Jump over. And do some bouncing. We have to figure out how to get Laura over. But maybe we aren't supposed to just yet. We probably stack to do it if we really needed to. We might need to use John to give her some height. Let me see where this elevator goes first, make sure it doesn't go to anything interesting. Nope, that's the exit. Okay. So it's gonna have to be some shenanigan. Or just do that. Pfft, I didn't realize it came that close. I think I probably did that in a really stupid, harder than it needed to be style. Is it gonna get stuck on the elevator? Oh, cool. Crazy Laura mechanics. Alright, and the rest of them should be able to make it on their own, right? Let's try sending Chris first. I guess I didn't see the one platform coming that close over. Ah, that's interesting. For somebody had a puzzle in like that. Jump. Oops. Get them into sync with each other. Nice. So you let Thomas and John get into... there we go. Oh, now we've got 5 of them. Yikes. Interesting. Thomas and John have to get in phase, and then you can watch for it in time Chris at just the right moment.
Laura liked her new gang. She liked Chris.
Oh, really? I think you can just time it directly if you're careful about it.
Seemed to be sticking around too. Not like those losers from before.
Oh, yikes. Huh. So we gotta approach this one a little bit more carefully, I guess. Chill for a minute.
Laura liked her new gang. She liked Chris. She liked having friends. These ones seem to be sticking around too. Not like those losers from before.
Bouncing. Bouncing forever. Much better. Not dying. Interesting. There we go. More water, I assume? Okay, and the pouring water doesn't kill any characters by itself, but if they keep slip-sliding around, we could be in trouble. No! Bummer. That's a bummer. That's a super bummer. Next time, we're ready for what's coming up next. Chris has to get over there on his lonesome. Let me move Laura over.
Laura liked her new game. She liked Chris.
That's a bummer.
Like those losers from before.
Cool. Jump. Stop that nonsense. Make that chill out. Right, so we want to move all of them so that we're ready for it to go up. And I guess the light is kind of giving us a clue as to where we need to fit in. Don't think we need to be super precise about it, but also don't want to be off at all. Okay. Let's manage Claire. There we go. Oh god. No, Laura! God. I feel like when the water's filling, they all start moving off of each other or something. They all subtly influence each other's physics. Okay, you're gonna stay put there. You're gonna go up. So.
Laura liked her new gang. She liked Chris. She liked having friends. These ones seem to be sticking around too. Not like those losers from before.
Y'all two stay put. Yeah, see how Laura, like, starts to shift and trend to the side when the water's filling? I don't know what's actually causing that to happen, but it's not how I expected. There's a slight angle to it. I have to watch really closely, I think. Just have to manage her so she doesn't get slippy slided off to death. Bounce. Bounce. Ah, interesting. What if he stands here? Not good enough. Alright, so it's gonna have to be Claire as well. Very tricky. Perfect. I think he can get up by himself. Cool. Also... awesome. That one was pretty tricky. Okay, so the blocks there are so that the hazard can move through them, but our characters cannot. I get it. Now, what all is the spike endangering? I like how they made her wideness interesting too. Not always places she can fit.
pixel cloud was getting
Oh,
closer.
that was not good.
It was
I don't think I
spending
meant to
more and
do
more
that.
time hovering around.
Are they
Laura could
always
tell it was
out
making
of
the
phase
others
with each other,
uncomfortable.
or can Laura die? Laura can die. Alright. I don't think I wanted to turn that on. Can I turn that off now? Well, I guess let's figure out who can go where. If we just place this one, it's completely safe to my knowledge. That appears to be the case. I guess we can just get them all on there at pretty much any time and be fine. Great. And then you're getting stuck in a wall, but it's okay. Everything's fine, everything's good. Let's go this way, yeah? Ouch. Tetris also has quadrilaterals. Oh man, I really gotta use, like, the jumping gets all wonky when you're on a platform that's rising. Like, you're not allowed to jump when it's on its way up. I don't think I've played a game that's used that before. I don't know if it's intentional or not. It's hard to tell. I like it quite a bit, Honk Bonkington. It's pretty cool so far. You played it before? Try coming at it from the right, I think. There we go. GG. Puzzles built around that. No simulation can support too many entities. At a certain point, something has to give. If Thomas hadn't possessed those exact personality traits, it's likely the story would have ended there. We'd still be in business. Cool. Ah, I see.
Thomas did not like the cloud.
Specific
He'd
people.
long since stopped listing his observations, but he instinctively observed that this thing was bad. And he'd been
But
right
they only have
about
to press the
water.
switch once. Got it. And have them all hit their switches. Getting Laura up there will be tricky though. Probably need to bring Claire down here. No, she's the same height as John. Interesting. That'll work though. Turn the music down a little bit. It's not as subdued as it was at the beginning of the game. Let me know if that helps at all. Could also just turn it down in here. Let's bring Thomas back. Yeah, it's really cute. I like it. Good share. Okay. Thomas hopefully is enough. We'll see. I haven't played Cave Story at length. It did show up on Subblock, so I played it for an hour. And I really enjoyed it. I had never beaten it before. I got a little bit further in my 1 hour playing it on stream than I had in my own spare time. But I liked it quite a bit. Yeah, discordant's a good description of it. But I guess that kind of gives away where they're going with it, if it's intentionally discordant. I guess the game title gives it away too, doesn't it? So cool. Alright, so... Chris... I'll find a way for you to get to that switch. Might be able to get it from here. You can't fall down onto John, I don't think, unless if this works. Probably need to drop down onto her. Whee! Can't jump when I'm rising off of her. At all, really. Oh, I think I know what I have to do. Hold on. Doing it backwards. Yeah. There we go. That's better. Nice.
Chris was in love, and that was fantastic and everything, but that didn't mean they could let the doom cloud keep following them.
Mm-hmm.
Thomas was going to put his foot down once they got to the next level.
Yes. Assuming at the end he will be alone again, and a game that is kind of cute and funny will become very poignant when we start talking about have all these folks working in concert, and whether that's a good thing or not. .3.
Chris? Miss Thomas? Wow. Did not see that coming. He felt a little guilty too. Without his love for Laura and subsequent reunion with the guys, Thomas would probably still be with them.
Can we do this to like bounce from a higher height? Is that how it works? No, it's not how it works. Okay, well now I know. But I can probably get Claire on top. Yeah, I think that'll work. Oh, bummer. That's too bad. No, I started, Thomas was alone at about 6 minutes after, so about 4 more minutes. Have patience. Just a few. Yeah, I can sense in the way it's kind of lighthearted right now how it's going to be less lighthearted in the next few hours of gameplay. Shit. Cool. Oh, bummer. That's a huge bummer. Might not be able to finish this one on time, but we'll see what we end up doing here. What did that switch accomplish? Oh, let's... Oh, it lets Laura go through there. Sure. That makes sense. We still need to get Chris up there, and that's easier said than done. So what we're doing here? Oh god. Alright, so shenanigans ahoy. Hard to get that to do exactly what you want it to do, right? I might need to bring Clara back down here so we can bring Chris up higher. Yeah. Yeah, right? The design space for this game is pretty impressive, I agree. Lots of cool room for neat new puzzles, I think. This game just pull an autosave, like if I were to stop here and move on to Red Alert, it'll pick up from this level. I don't think I'll be able to clear this one in 2 minutes. Get the general idea, though. That's tough. Quadrilaterals with different jumps. Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks for sharing, Leon. And I know that Dieter wanted to see this one too. Really, really cool game. Enjoy it quite a bit. I kind of see where it's going. I like some of the ideas. I really like the design space in the levels. We'll be back in a few minutes. I have to set up a virtual machine to get Red Alert 2 to work, so it could be a few minutes or so. I'll throw up the standby screen and we'll be back shortly. Creative is that's a kind way to put it, Propagable. Alright.